Hi, I'm James with British Customs. Today we're going to show you how to remove your ABS brake line from this T120 2024 model. The reason why we want to do that ABS brake line comes all the way from top to the bottom, one piece, and we're going to install our ABS brake line kit that actually cuts it off right about the middle here, and then you can add any other brake line you want to put on whatever handlebars you're going to put on. Our kits, we know that they work. The handlebar kits all come with the upper brake line that's proper for that handlebar. So this may work with other people's handlebars. We don't know, we don't test those, but they definitely work with our handlebars. So first thing we want to do is get our seat off. Next thing we want to do is disconnect our battery negative. It's either a 10mm socket or a number 3 Phillips head. Get that out of the way. Put the screw back in so you don't lose it. Now with our 10mm wrench or 8mm socket, you can remove the bolt back here. So next we want to lift up the tank to get access to the fuel injection plugs and the hose so we can disconnect that. Before you go taking this tank off, find a safe place to put it. Put a towel down to put it down somewhere out of the way where it won't get damaged. So we'll start by lifting that up a little bit and start pulling back. You want to make sure that you don't hit your triple clamp up there, so you want to pull it back a little bit there. You can get a piece of wood or something just to block that up and hold it. And now we can access our hose there and get to our plugs there. So what we want to remove is this fuel line right here. The clip is right there. And then up underneath that fuel line, once we move it, there's 2 plugs that we need to disconnect. So start by doing that. You need to pull this clip back here so we can squeeze in over here. It helps to have a tool, but I have done it with my fingers. You can do it. So it starts coming up there. Now, I'm going to have a rag ready here because you're going to get some fuel is going to want to leak out of here. So now we can pull that out of the way and get to those 2 plugs right up in here. So these are the 2 plugs that we want to get unplugged. You just lift them up and they come right off of the frame there. And then you can pull them out here. And see this little tang right there is what we need to lift up, and then we can pull them apart. So next we got this tank vent hose here that we need to disconnect. It's got a little clip holding it in place here. Just pull down a little bit and pull out this way. It'll come out, and then just pull it off the tank. So one thing I failed to mention before, it's a good idea to run this tank as empty as you can before you do this job. It's just a lot easier to get it off the bike when it has no fuel in it. But doesn't have to be, just like this one is full. So now we're ready to pull it off. So you want to lay it back down a little bit. Keep your hand back here. Start pulling back and up. So next we want to use our T30 Torx bit. Remove this guide. Pull that one out from underneath. Now we want to get the brake fluid out of the brake line. So now we want to take this cap off. Use our Phillips head screwdriver. And one thing, you want to be ready with a rag to put the cap onto, and you just got to be very careful. You don't want to be dripping any of this brake fluid onto anything, because .4 brake fluid will take paint off very quickly. So just be very careful with it. So next thing we want to do is we're going to hook up our brake bleeder to the caliper. Now we can, it's actually always better to get this thing causing vacuum, that way we don't get any leaks out of here. So with our 11mm wrench, we loosen this up. All right. Let's go do the same on the other side. Okay, again, we're going to turn on the vacuum and then loosen this with our 11mm wrench. Right. So next we want to remove our sprocket cover here. Got 4 screws, 8mm socket. Now we want to remove the side cover. And remove this side cover. Probably don't have to remove this side cover, but it helps us see everything better. So we want to remove this cap. There's a little slot under there to put a screwdriver or a pry bar. So now we're going to take the mufflers off. We got a 10mm here and a 12mm up here. This may not be the same as stock. This is not a stock pipe on here, but I believe that the stock one is still a 10mm. The only other bolt you're going to have crosses over here, and that should be a 12mm on the bolt and 12mm on the nut on the back side. Get that loosened up. And now with our 12mm, take this nut off. You want to put pressure down on the foot peg to keep the bolt from spinning. Okay. And the reason why we're taking this off is so we can get to this screw there, so we can take the shock off of the swing arm. So again, got our 10mm here. And a 12mm here. Put pressure on the peg. Keep that bolt from moving. All right, for this next step, we need to jack up the back of the bike. We prefer to use flat jacks. They're more stable. whatever you use, you need to make sure that the bike is totally secure and stable. Have the front wheel in a chock. If you have eyelets screwed into the ground where you could strap it down or something, if you don't have a lift. However you're going to do it, you just need to make sure it's secure, that the bike is not going to fall off. If you use a car jack, they're not really stable enough like a flat jack is. The other thing is I like to put the piece of wood back here so I'm not resting on the motor up here. And if you keep it back here, you're nice and solid. I don't know that it would be all that bad if you didn't have the wood there, but I prefer it. So I like to do it just till the wheel comes off the ground, and then I'll lower it back down till it stops right there. So now we're going to take our chain guard off. These are 4mm Allen. Got 2 screws. So now we want to get our axle out. These are our 27mm socket. Take that nut off. The washer. So now we just want to push the axle through. Pull out that adjuster. Pull it out. Push it forward a little bit, and we can pull the chain off. Just hang it over the swing arm like that. And pull the wheel back. Make sure you're holding on to your caliper so that it doesn't just fall down. I can get it out of the way. So now we just want to get the chain off of the swing arm. So you want to hang it somewhere. You could put a rag here and maybe cable tie it to the top of the shock or something. I really like these hooks. They're pretty cool. They're flexible. So I can put them in many different places. So I can just bend it down under there. So if they're too long, I can make them a little bit shorter just by bending it. They're pretty neat. But whatever you got to do, you could cable tie it up, use a piece of rope, whatever you want. So now we want to get this cover off of here. You got your 5mm Allen. You got little top hat spacers in there. You don't want to lose those. Okay. So now we can actually access our brake lines, and a lot of people make the same mistake. We've tried it, but you cannot get these out without getting the swing arm out of the way. I mean, you might take the shocks off, raise this up and get this out, but you still can't get the brake line out from behind the swing arm. So you'll do all that, and then you still end up having to remove the swing arm anyway. So I urge you not to even try it. Just keep going and remove the swing arm. So now I want to get the brake line off of the swing arm here. Got little plastic clips. Just need to pry those out. Like that. Now we can bring that down and rest it. So now we're going to take the shock bolts off with our 8mm Allen. We'll take the bolts off, but you're going to leave the shocks attached for now until we pull the pivot bolt out of the swing arm. So now we're going to remove this nut here. It's a 24 millimeter socket. Hold the other side with a 19 millimeter. So now we can push this out. We have to tap it with a rubber mallet. Okay. Get that washer out of there. We'll pull it out. And we're going to go to the other side and put this back in that way. So now you just want to push this back just enough. You'll see that there's two slots right there. That's actually a nut. You got this special tool right here from Triumph that fits in there and locks into that. So you need to use this special tool. Homemade tools, they may get you by, but they really don't work well. Sometimes they slip out, you scratch your frame up and everything. This is the same tool. I just happen to modify mine to fit on a 1/4-inch ratchet here. And the whole idea of putting the shaft through there is to keep this from moving around, because if you try and take this out without the pivot shaft through there, the swing arm will start moving on you. So you don't have to take it all the way out, just back it out till it stops and you're good. So now we want to remove the carbon canister. You've got 2 screws right there, a 3 millimeter Allen. So now we want to pull this out. There's a little rubber bushing that this is got a little arm that's going through that. So we need to pull it out of that. There's the chance that that could fall out. So make sure you don't lose it. Now we can pull these hoses off. So these can be a little difficult. So they make this tool right here is made for that. Just push hoses right off like that. Nice. So now we can remove the shocks. Now we can remove the pivot bolt. And we can wiggle this swing arm out of there and put it aside. So now we want to remove the front brake line that goes all the way up to our handlebars. That is this one here, which is the furthest back to the left side of the bike. It comes straight up through here. And this is the whole reason why we have to remove the swing arm, because you can't get these brake lines out of here and be able to think you're gonna slide it out this way. You can't do it because this is wedged between the swing arm. So I wish there was a better way. So we're gonna get this off. You wanna be ready with a rag. Again, this is .4 brake fluid. Try and avoid getting it on any painted surfaces. Use our 12 millimeter socket. We did evacuate the system, so there really shouldn't be a lot of fluid, but there'll be a little bit of residual that we want to catch. You can see it coming out there as you aim it down. It starts leaking out. So I'll let that sit there for a minute. Let it drain. want to make sure we get this washer out of there because we're not going to reuse it. So get a pick or something. Make sure you don't damage the aluminum surface of the ABS unit, and make sure this is out of there. We definitely don't want that in there when we go to put this back together. So I let that drain out for a little while. There's nothing really coming out of there, but one thing I like to do, if you have this absorbent mat, it's great stuff. If you don't have it, it's not that big a deal. But even just using a regular plastic baggie, if you find one of these little baggies laying around, you put it around the banjo here so that when we pull it through, that will help make sure no fluid is getting dripped around on the motor or anything. And then I just take a little cable tie it tight to it. Just a little extra, you know. All right, so now we're going to start pulling this brake line out. Now, you could pull it out. I've not found a way that you can pull this out without messing the brake line up. But if you really wanted to keep it, in case you ever wanted to put it back on the bike, it's going to be real difficult to do. You got to be really careful with it. The other option you could do is you could just cut it right here and pull it out that way and then pull it out this way. We're not going to cut it because it's not the way we do things here. But if you know you're never going to want to use this brake line again, by all means, cut it out, make your life easier. All right, now we can take it off the top and pull it out this way. So as you can see, this whole solid line like here is a real pain. The way ours is, it's gonna end right over here, little junction block, so that it'll be two brake lines, one going that way, one going that way. And it'll all be flexible. So easy to remove and install. So now we're gonna undo this banjo bolt. It's a 14mm socket. And you just wanna be ready here with a rag. Make sure you get the old washers out. Okay. You can do our little baggy trick again. All right, we can undo this here, put that back. So now I can just pull from the other side and push from this side. Now we can bring it through this way. So now we want to route our new ABS line up. We're going to take the connection piece off. Our banjo is going to end up down at the bottom here. So we route this up through here the way the stock one went. So get that up here. And then there. Okay, now we can attach it down on the bottom, and we'll finish routing it. All right, so now this is very important, this step here. Make sure there's no debris in here. Make sure that that old washer is removed from there. We have 2 washers in the kit. There's one thin one and one thick one. The thick one goes on top of the ABS unit, right there. Make sure you remove the washer from the banjo bolt and put the new washer on. The thin washer goes on the bolt. Now we're going to go through. This should be turning to the left of the bike if it's installed right. If it's turning this way, it's wrong. Make sure you can be turning this by hand. That way you know you're not cross-threading anything. Once you've gone a few rotations by hand, you know you're good. Now we can put a ratchet on it. It's a 12mm socket. Just make it a little snug at first, and now we want to finish routing our line here. You're probably going to have to push it back down a little bit from where we brought it up and pop it into here where it belongs. Make sure the other one is nice and tight in there. And that's the way it should be. Now, we want to torque that bolt down to 25 Newton meters. 12mm socket. So now we want to take our brake line, put it in the clip there where it belongs, right next to the other one. Make sure it's all neat, still in place on the bottom. And this is where we're going to end up right there. So now we're going to put our little junction on here. Thread that on by hand. Now, technically, this is a 7/16 and a 5/8 inch wrench that you're going to use here. If you don't have standard tools and all you have is metric, then a 11mm and a 16mm will work. But if you have the standard, these are actually standard pieces here. Tighten that up. And this is a tapered fitting when it goes in there. So it's kind of, you know, compresses down, and that's what causes the seal. It's not the threads that seal. So you're not looking to like totally destroy this thing trying to seal it. Don't use any thread sealant on there because it's not going to help you. It's not the threads that seal. It's the actual cone piece here meets up with the seat inside the hose, and you don't want to destroy that by making it way too tight. So you're just trying to snug it down tight enough that it doesn't leak. So at this point of the video, this video is not over yet. We still got a lot more to go, but at this point is where you would want to install your handlebars. So whatever kit you have, you want to go to that video, watch that video, install your handlebars, and then you would come back to this video to finish up the rest of the installation. And the reason for that is we want to have the handlebars on, bleed the brakes, and then check for any leaks back here. We don't want to put this all back together and find out that we have a leak down there, and now we're going to take it all back apart just so we can get under there and fix the leak. So once your handlebars are on, you can bleed the brakes, check for leaks. No leaks, finish putting it back together. For the sake of the video, we're going to get this all back together right now, and we're going to take our chances that we believe we are not going to have leaks. And we'll have to worry about that later on. So now we just want to go back in reverse order. Start with our swing arm. Make sure you get it through the chain. And that, you have the brake side on the brake side and not on the drive side. Once we get that in there, you can raise it up. Throw the shocks on there to hold it. Okay. Get the pivot bolt. Okay. All right, now we know our axles or pivot shaft bolt is through there. We want to push it back just enough so we can get our tool on here. Just going to start snugging that up a little bit by hand. Do not tighten it without using a torque wrench. This should only be 6 Newton meters. It's nothing crazy tight. Six Newton meters. All right, now we can pull our pivot shaft out from this side and bring it back to the other side. So now we install it this way. A little tap through there. Okay. You know, one thing, see me hitting this with a hammer, that is a rubber hammer. So just so you know, it's called a rubber mallet. It's not a hammer. Do not hit any of your axles ever with a piece of metal. Rubber only. Okay, so now we're ready to tighten the pivot shaft nut using our 24 millimeter socket on the nut. Hold the shaft with the 19 millimeter. Then we're going to final tighten to 110 Newton meters. All right, so now I just want to take these shocks off of the swing arm. I'm going to put the charcoal canister back in place. I put a little bit of dielectric grease on the ends of these to make it a little easier to get back in. This one doesn't connect to anything. This one goes into the rubber bushing. These are your two hoses. One's smaller, one's larger. You can see that on here in case you're worried that they might have moved out of place. Start by putting the smaller one on the inside. Put that on. Put on the outer one. Just the big one. Then we can slide that into place and put our swing arm back up. So now we just want to get them lined up like that. Get our screws started. So our 3 millimeter Allen. If you're feeling any kind of resistance there, stop turning. You don't want to cross thread these. It's tiny threads, easy to do. So now we want to put this cover back on. You have these wires up here that go into this clip, so make sure they're going in there. Ready? So using our 5mm Allen, you want to make sure you have your top hat spacer on there and that it's going through both the container and the cover. Again, make sure you got your top hat spacer on there. And make sure the spacer goes through the hole and it's not crushing the container. About 5mm. Now just make sure that's tight by hand. Okay. So we put the shock bolts on. A little blue Loctite. These are 8mm Allen. Torque it down to 28 Newton meters. We'll do the same on the other side. Blue Loctite, 8mm socket, Allen, sorry. 28 Newton meters. Okay, now we can unhook our chain from here. I'm going to put it over the swing arm like that, and then bring our wheel in. Get your caliper on, make sure that your pads are on the proper side of the rotor. Put the chain on. So now we're going to put the axle back in. Just in case you took the spacer block off of your axle, the wider one goes on the left side by the brake, and the skinnier one goes on the other side by the sprocket. Through. I can slide this up flat side goes towards the bolt. Put that in. So now we'll put the other spacer block on there. Flat side towards the bolt. Now, if you loosen these up for any reason and you need to readjust your chain, this would be the time to do it. Check your manual for the specs and do that, and then we'll tighten down the axle. So now we want to tighten our rear axle nut using our 24mm socket to 110 Newton meters. We'll put the chain guard back on. A 5mm Allen hex bit. So now we can put the side cover back on. Make sure you put this rubber bumper back on there. Get that in place. So now I can put this cap back on. Put our side cover back on. These three, just push right into these three. Make sure they're all lined up. And make sure you got the right cover. Okay, we put this one on. Okay, all right, now you can put your exhaust back on. Make sure this is in the right orientation, facing downwards on the bottom. So if you're looking at it from the bottom, it will be outwards. Slide that in. Make sure when you're putting this foot peg in, there's a little nub right there. It needs to line up in that hole. A 12mm wrench. Put some pressure on the foot peg, keep the bolt from spinning. Okay. And in this case, for some reason, that's too tight, so we need to loosen this up so that clamp will slide forward. My 5mm Allen, I'm just going to loosen that up so I can pull that out enough to get the clamp under there. So 10mm, tighten that up. So now, again, make sure the orientation of your clamp is proper. It should be facing outwards when it's on the bottom there. That spacer in there. Make sure that little nub is going into the hole. A 12mm ratchet and wrench. Tighten that up. Keep pressure on the foot peg so the bolt don't spin. 10mm socket. Loosen that up a little bit. Move it in a little bit more. There she goes. You want to make that clamp so it's flush with the end of the pipe. So that's it for on how to remove the ABS brake line, front ABS brake line, and install the British Customs ABS brake line up to this point on a 2024 Bonneville T120. Again, halfway through the video, when we got to this point, before you put the wheel on, you want to check for leaks. So you need to put your handlebars on. So go check out those videos and see which handlebars you're putting on. Watch that video before you install it. And check for leaks before you finish the rest of this video and button that all up. Make sure you wipe your pipes down so you don't have any handprints all over them when you fire them up. And you got any questions, give us a call, email, or make comments in the video. Thanks for watching.